Hey there, fellers. Welcome back to the good I can't pull Lonnie?
They told me I needed a battery. Thought it was just the alternator. I'm retired. I drive an 84 Oldsmobile. Just give me some jumper cable and I'll get out of your hair. My friends call me Jerry.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Good Share Podcast with Ryan and Ice. He's Ice.
And he's Ryan.
All right.
I almost said that I'm Ryan.
You did.
All right, let's roll with that. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
a keeper.
We only did that 6 times, and every time we were cracking up and couldn't really hold it together much. This episode is brought to you by...
Do we have sponsors now? Oh, kidney stones and testosterone.
There you go.
Oh.
I was going to say you could slide in the WTNS thing right there just for fun.
The spirit of
Shotgun WTNS.
Oh, you're doing the slow one. I like the one that's smooth where it's just like WTNS. You can hire me to cut any of your scratch vocals anytime. You think we get in trouble if we use that and put it in here?
What are they gonna do?
Yeah, nobody's listening anyway. I mean to WTNS, not us.
So kidney stones and testosterone, baby. That's what we're talking about today. And it's probably going to be a super long conversation, but we're just kind of free ball this one, right?
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
Well, we thought we'd maybe shift gears from talking just about like music or music industry or things like that.
Yeah, because we're not one-dimensional characters.
We don't want the podcast to just be about that. I mean, that's a lot of our life, so we do tend to talk about it. But the whole point of us even starting this was just because we wanted to talk about a bunch of different things, and health being one of them. And both of us have had some interesting health things happen recently, and we just thought it might be fun to share about them. I
think approaching like the 40s, going through the mid 30s, man, it's so weird.
You know, I remember, which this will probably lead into another episode that will be more in depth about this. But I remember when I first started losing weight. Let me think how old I am. I'll be 38 this year. That means I would have been 34 in 2017.
Yeah.
When I started, because I started this
whole... So 4 years ago, you started
this whole journey. It was November 5th of 2017. But regardless, I remember the next year, you know, when I turned 35, and I'd actually done a podcast for another or like a roundtable discussion for another podcast. It's like a drummer podcast, but they were doing a health and wellness episode. And it was a bunch of different drummers at various fitness points in their life, various ages. And some of the older guys, I remember them saying like, yeah, man, 35, 36 is real. When I really started to notice things that like I never worried about or thought about before then.
Right. Like, just this, it starts kind of small, and then it's funny how fast it escalates.
Yeah. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, well, I got that beat because I got my shit under control, and I'm only 35 now. You know, like I nipped it in the bud, like, you know. But turns out some things happen anyway, which I don't think. Well, let's just get into it. You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so a week ago,
we'll do a little back and forth. You know?
A week ago, I passed 3 kidney stones, 2 that were like
monsters,
massive.
Yeah, like world records.
I don't know about that. I called Guinness, but they haven't returned my call.
So here's a picture of Matt's first one.
Yeah. And then if you look, there's another one that's like the same size, and then a smaller one came out after that second one. So here
It's unbelievable. I talked to you the day this happened.
Oh yeah,
we were
like
talking on
right after.
Right at, and you sent me the picture. You said, "Look at what just happened," and I was like, "Wait, what? No," because it looked like maybe your daughter went out and got some gravel out of the driveway and threw it in your toilet.
I mean, it literally looks like a pebble,
dude. And then you call me, and you weren't like, "Yeah, it didn't like hurt," or it just, and because I've got family that has had kidney stones, and one of them's been hospitalized a couple times, and I know it can be extremely painful. But you were sick.
Well, yeah,
like really freaking sick. A month before.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is like 2 days before they passed, I started having pretty awful pain in my in Manland.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like, not anything that I was like super concerned about, but this is like way too much detail.
So it's a TMI warning.
Yeah, maybe this is a not safe for work moment. I don't know. But like if you're a guy, did you ever when you were a kid like get soap in your pee hole?
Yeah.
That kind of like burny sensation.
I still do.
Yeah, like every now and then it'll happen, right?
Right.
And
it happens.
It's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
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 It was like that kind of feeling all the time for like 2 days. And when I would pee, it would be obviously more intense. But I thought, maybe maybe that's what I did, something like that. And then I was home with my daughter on Thursday because she was home sick. And I was like, I'll be right back, Munch. I got to go pee. And the first one came out and like I wasn't having any more pain than what I already described. I didn't have any more pain in that moment, but I was just like, so that's why this has been hurting. And so I got a plasticware spoon, because we save them anytime we have we pick up food or something. Right. Luckily, I'm very hydrated, so it was pretty clear. It wasn't. It was
very, very
my
clear.
My pee's not very yellow or green or anything like that.
It didn't look like you even went to the restroom.
I drink a ton of water, which is one of the reasons I can't believe I even had stones. But
yeah, and I'm just started doing the same thing. Lots and lots of water for a different reason.
So I fished it out, put it in a little jar, sent you the picture. But like the pain that I had before hadn't gone away, and now it felt different. Like now that the first one passed, it felt different like down there. So I kind of felt like, okay, well, maybe there's going to be more. And sure enough, I drank 48 ounces of water after that because I was like, I want to make myself pee again. Cause if there's more, I want to get it out. And I felt like the more hydrated I am, maybe the less it will hurt when it comes out, And so the next time I peed, another one the same size came out, and then a little, it was like what was left came out. And I was like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. So I fished those two out and put them in a jar, and I have my annual physical in 2 weeks. So I'll be taking those
specimens
with me to the doctor. Only because my mother-in-law has issues with stones, but she's super healthy. And the reason she has them is because she was eating way too many high oxalate foods.
That's the word I was trying to remember. High oxalate.
And eating a lot of blueberries, things like that, which I eat blueberries on my oatmeal 3 times a week. And but you eat the crap out of spinach. I mean, I've tapered off in the last week, but up to this point, I was eating spinach 5 or 6 times a week, at least once a day.
That's crazy, man. That's
usually what my lunch is chicken on a spinach salad.
Wow.
So I'm hoping, that's the only thing I can think of because I haven't had a soda in 5 years.
Jeez Louise, man.
I've pretty much only had water to drink in 5 years, other than the occasional. I'd have protein shakes
Yeah.
Or every now and then I'll have like a glass of orange juice or something. But I haven't had anything but water in like 5 years. Wow. So it was quite a shock. But yes, to get back to what you said, yeah, like 5 weeks ago,
you were
unbelievable. The sickest I've ever been as an adult.
Throwing up.
Well, yeah. So I dropped the kids off. I dropped the kids off at school.
You started with vomit, right?
Dropped the kids off at school, and when I got back in the car, it like hit me all of a sudden. I had this terrible cramp in my stomach. Mm-hmm. It was awful. So I came home and I laid down, and then, you can kind of tell the way your mouth starts to feel like you kind of start salivating. I was like, I'm going to throw up. So I went and parked it over the toilet, and for a couple hours, I was throwing up like every 20 minutes.
Golly, man.
And it was all, luckily, I usually don't eat first thing in the morning. I usually eat after my workout. So the earliest I have breakfast or something is like 10. So it was all liquid. I hadn't eaten anything. So that at least was not as unpleasant as it could have been. But then I just laid down. I had a terrible fever. I had these pains that wouldn't go away.
Yep.
And then come to find out, so after I passed the stone, I did all this research. And most people that have stones, they pass them in like no longer than like 3 days. But the pain is like super, super intense.
Yes.
But occasionally, very rarely, there are people that will have the same kind of symptoms, but they're mild, but they last way longer, for like 45 days. And then you finally pass the stones. Or if you don't pass them and it has taken that long, you're so uncomfortable that you go to the doctor, they figure it out, and then they can like blast them inside you or whatever, so you don't even have to pass them.
Right.
But everything I looked at totally lined up and the timeline made sense. So I think, because at first I thought, well, maybe I just got a really bad stomach bug. And then I started thinking, okay, well, maybe I have some form of COVID where it's just none of the symptoms that people report. It's
that's
like
what I was even suggesting.
But I got tested for COVID twice and they were both negative, and went to see my doctor and he couldn't figure out what was going on. Cause he pressed all over everywhere to see if I had pain, but it wasn't that kind of pain. It wasn't pain where it was like somebody pushed on my gut. It hurt. It was like inside. I just had like this crampy feeling that would not go away, and I couldn't get comfortable.
Ooh. And that's when
I had like a mild fever the whole time.
And that's actually when the stone is actually moving from the kidney to the bladder.
Right. So
because I looked this up like yesterday.
So the crazy thing about it is I felt that way for like 10 days, 2 weeks. And then I had like a week where I felt better, but sometimes at night, like my fever would still kind of spike, like after dinner, like right before bed, it would be back up like 100 or something, or like 99 point something. And I would just feel weird. Like I didn't feel sick, but I didn't feel normal.
Right.
And then I had like a couple weeks of like, okay, I feel pretty good. And I was getting back to the gym and getting into running, and I felt fine. And then I had pain for a couple days. Yeah. And then I passed stone. So who knows?
I remember those days before you were like, yeah, I feel good, but not 100%.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that, but you're like, it's weird.
And like, I had different health, which I'll get into this more when we talk about like making a lifestyle change or whatever, but I have different health markers that I keep my eye on for me personally, because I feel like they're good ways to keep tabs on, like they're good things that I can see. And if I see changes that are pretty drastic, then I think, okay, well, something is up.
What's one example?
Well, two of them are my resting heart rate.
Okay.
Which is usually like mid to low 40s. Because I probably do too much, but I do a lot of cardio.
You do a ton of cardio.
Like usually it's like 43. It's usually like 43 to 45.
That's unbelievable.
But it had climbed to like 56.
And during this time.
I mean, like once I got over the sickness and I started to feel better, then it was like slowly coming down, which, part of it is I went for like 3 weeks where I wasn't doing any kind of intense running or anything. So I'm not, conditioning, you have to keep yourself conditioned if you want to stay like that.
But man, that's so crazy how fast that will change.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think the other part of it is it changed so drastically because my body, like, I think when you have a kidney, I don't know this for sure, but when you have something like that, it's almost like your body's trying to like fight an infection.
Yeah.
Like internally, your body is taxed more than normal. You might not even feel it, but things are working harder than they should, or not working the way they should. So your body gets out of whack. So like that was like, and I know I'm not saying Fitbit heart rate monitor is like perfect. Mm-hmm. So even if my resting heart rate isn't really 45, like let's say it's 48 or something, like say it's off, still just noticing that there's an increase or a decrease is like a good indication of where you are. The other one is blood pressure, which my blood pressure is usually really good. Like the low 110s or even sometimes like 105 over like 60s.
Jeez.
Right. But it was like, because I'll take it, 3 or 4 times a week, usually. Mm-hmm. Because it when I was a lot heavier, it was not great. It was
what was it before?
Oh, I don't know. I was probably high 130s over high 80s or low 90s. Like I was probably really close to like hypertensive.
The last 2 times I had my blood pressure done for the stuff that I had going on here just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Have come at 142 over 93.
Yeah, that's like hypertension territory.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Dang.
But I'm sure that has a lot to do with the cholesterol issue I've got.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, like I was looking at those 2 things and just going like, I'm taking my blood pressure here at home and it's like 140. I took it once and it was like 147 over 97 or something. And I was like,
during all this going on,
when I was sick, and I was like, either this is wrong or like there's definitely something going on inside me that is not right.
For sure. Huh.
But I had gone to the doctor and he was like, well, I think it's just a viral thing. There's nothing I can do for you. And
yeah.
So yeah, kidney stones, sickness.
Oh boy, man.
I guess if I ever get sick like that again, I'll know what it is. Part of me is like, because the other thing I looked up was once you have them once, you're like, your chance to get them increases by 50%. So
yeah, but
like,
man,
cool.
you're 37, gonna be 38, and this is the first time that's happened, and you've done some radical dietary changes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I think. Yeah, that is the case. And I think that study is probably correct for people that don't change something. But you have drastically in the last 4 years. So if you cut back and change or substitute the spinach or anything else that might be in high oxalate that might be contributing to this, I don't know if you'll have to deal with that again.
Right. I hope not. It's not fun.
No, you were pretty down there. I checked on you a couple times because I was kind of worried.
Dude, I should knock on wood when I say this. I hesitate to say it, but it's like I almost wish that if I am going to have them again, maybe I'd just rather have like the way more intense pain, but have it be over in 2 or 3 days.
I don't know.
I don't know, because the things I've read, people say the pain is like just the worst. Like they compare it to childbirth.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't want that, because passing the stone was no big deal. It was the weeks,
the
prior
travel
to that
time from the kidney to the bladder. Yeah.
So anyway, that's
probably So
that's my story about kidney stones. What's your ailment?
So anyway, for the last several years, I've been dealing with bouts of fatigue, which that then have been like getting marginally worse over the last 3 years. And just the worst, man. I mean, like I was telling you, doing a workout, I would be in the middle of a rep and I fell asleep on the bench.
Yeah.
Because I'm just exhausted. So I decided to, well, I did a lot of different things. I went to my PCP. They did some blood work. Everything came back normal. Except here's the thing about that.
Yeah.
They didn't check everything. They just checked the few things, like, your regular stuff, your white blood cell count and blah, 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 blah. They didn't really look at my cholesterol. They didn't look at any hormones. They didn't look at anything else other than vitamin levels and your standard panel of blood work.
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you right now, if you are dealing with something like this and you have that done and everything comes back normal, do not accept that, because the panel of blood work that's coming back is so standard and such a small sliver of information about what is actually going on in your body. Go get an extensive panel done. Because I did a couple weeks ago and I got a bunch of results back, a lot of good information about things that are really good. And then other things that point to exactly what is going on. So along with the fatigue, it's been like really bad depression. And I know that you dealt with and continue
Yes.
to deal with depression, right?
Yes.
And there are a lot of us that do. And it just depends on which level we're talking about. So there is the constant nagging and then the self-defeating, right? There's that. And then that can kind of go into maybe I'm better off not here. Maybe it's
Right.
better off that I'm just not and don't have to deal with the problems that I am currently just cycling in my head, because it's just a constant like nag. It just keeps coming back and you fixate on a particular thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the next stage is planning that exodus, right? Planning on how you're going to leave the planet, and not by any means of SpaceX.
Right.
So
Right.
that final stage, the stage of planning your suicide or death. And I know this is kind of a touchy thing, but I think it's an important thing to be able to freely discuss, because it's kind of a taboo thing. And even in like other countries, they look at this as a not real thing. Like it's not a real thing. It's all make believe, and it's all something you're making up in your own head, right? And it really is not. It's as simple as this. Sometimes, yes, we can kind of like just continually put ourselves down or find something to like just be pessimistic about. I'm not really talking about that particular thing. I'm talking about the next levels. I'm talking about suicidal thoughts and then the planning. I'm talking about that part of it, because if you can get to that part of it, for me anyway, it's because of something else that hurts so deeply and so bad that you just can't really find your way to deal with it. Like it's just me for anyway. And for me, it was, it started becoming physical. With no real explanation to why or and it would come seemingly out of nowhere. Sometimes I could anticipate whenever I was going to have a major depressive episode, but it was very hard to pinpoint. And the other thing is, my depression isn't the same as everyone else's, and everyone else isn't the same as everyone else's. Right. So I'm only talking about my particular story. I know that there are going to be several things in this that other people can relate to for sure. But there are going to be other things I say that people aren't going to understand because they're simply not going through the same type of thing. So I don't want it to sound like I'm discounting any other, personal thing, trauma or something someone's going through, But I do know that I feel in a lot of ways that you and I have very similar things. They're very close. They run parallel, but then there's, I think, just from listening to you talk, I can understand the branch that you then wind up on, and then versus mine. Anyway, so backing up a bit here. So I did the panel, did the blood work, found out that I am really deficient in vitamin D, which is a happy vitamin. It's actually not even a vitamin. It's a hormone, really. Vitamin is the blend of two words, vital, mineral. So that's where vitamin. And D acts more like a hormone because it can actually penetrate and get into the cell and change the behavior of the nucleus on the cell, which is much more like what a hormone does. But vitamin D is also known to be kind of the happy vitamin. It keeps your mood up.
Right.
The sun drug, right?
Yeah.
Get yourself out in the sun. So I was low on that. So that was a contributor. Low energy issue, I thought may be low testosterone. So my PCP really wasn't interested in checking any of that. So I wound up going somewhere else that does hormone replacement therapy. Now I know you're probably thinking of like changing from Bruce to Caitlin, but that's not what I'm talking about exactly. So this place, it's not all that far from my house. It's about an hour and a half drive northeast, and they check your free testosterone, your testosterone level, and your globulin that the testosterone uses to bind to get through your blood. And all of it came back extremely low. The average normal range is 300 to 1,000. Well, that's kind of crazy because, there could be somebody that says, man, I feel really great at 600. And another guy says, man, I feel really great at 900. Right. And that's a
huge range.
Oh, it's massive. So I was even asking you, and I was asking some other people, like, have you had your testosterone check? And you know what? The people that haven't specifically looked for this, none of them know. No, nobody knows. You know why? Because physicians do not check. They don't check. Yeah. They don't really particularly care unless you're going to a physician that specializes in some type of hormone replacement therapy.
Well, you could also say that, I guess if you're not feeling like weird, like it needs to be checked, then you never think about it.
Yeah. Right.
But still, it is funny that the normal range is a variable 700.
Yeah. Right.
It's just when you told me that's kind of mind boggling, and I'm kind of pissed because I meant to grab my blood work from the last time I was at the doctor just so we could compare. But maybe we'll do that in the next episode.
Yeah. We figured we would keep this one a bit shorter than what we normally keep our episodes. That way we could just kind of put our toes in the water with this one, because it can be a little bit what's the word,
heavy.
It can be heavy, and it can be maybe even slightly embarrassing, maybe for
yeah, maybe. I'm not embarrassed about it, but yes, it can be. It's not just something you stand around the water cooler and talk about.
Absolutely. But I think having people that feel a little bit more free to talk about these sort of things is a good thing, because it can lead to other people actually keeping eyes on, this sort of thing, especially when you're approaching your 30s. I think if you're in your 30s or approaching your 30s, I think the best thing you can do is get a good panel of blood work done.
Yeah.
And for no other reason than to have it. And then a year later, do it again, or 2 years later, do it again. And then that way you can see a trend. You'll be able to see a trend. If I would have done that at 30, I would have been able to see that my testosterone and my testosterone was falling. My cholesterol was going sky high.
Right.
And would have been able to maybe fix and change things. Because here's the thing, like you said, when we were working out, I said, man, I got to get rid of this little thing. And you're like, man, you've always been like super fit. Well, metabolically, I'm obese.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, it's funny that,
we flipped
when you, well, I am by no means skinny. I still consider myself fat, but
but as
maybe
far as
not
being
obese. Like we said this yesterday, like someone can be, 300 pounds, but if their body fat percentage is at like 12%, they're in really good shape. Like that's a pretty fit individual.
Yeah.
But somebody else can be 130 pounds, but if their body fat is at like 25 or 30% and they're eating McDonald's like 3 times a day and like they're small, but they're fat. They're skinny fat.
Yeah. Right. Skinny fat. That's me. I'm skinny fat. Well, I'm not.
You're not skinny, but yeah.
But yeah, I've got so yeah. My testosterone came back super low in the 200s, which is even by the standard 300 to 1,000 range low, because they'll say like if you're in 300 to 400 range, you're low normal. That's what they say. Oh, you're normal, but slow. But you're low normal. But it's just golly.
It's like, well, what am I? Am I normal or am I low?
Yeah. So this company that provides the research and the product for the thing that I had recently just gone through is called BioT, and they've been doing research on this particular thing with hormone replacement therapy for I think like 60 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
And they only make one product that I am aware of. They only make the pellet that you have injected, basically inserted inside the tissue of your like above your buttock.
Yeah.
And the reason they do that, and only that one, and not like injections or creams or patches, is because with creams, patches, and injections, you have the roller coaster. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Right. Where this stays in your system, and as your cardiovascular system is working, it winds up dissolving. So as you're sleeping, your heart's not pumping, and so it's not really using that much of the pellet.
Right.
Anyway, so that my testosterone was super low. My cholesterol was mind-blowingly high, like normal range. I think I don't have it right in front of me, but I think
didn't you say the high side of normal is like 140 or something?
Yeah, like the high side of normal is 140, and I'm at 498.
I mean, that's like, unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, it's super high, and I'm like at risk. I'm at that range. You're at risk for heart attack and stroke. And which, when you're told that by your physician, I was like, what? Yeah. Because I mean, if you know me, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm 200. Currently, I'm 230 because I still can't drop the weight. Right.
Well, hopefully this will help. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm fairly muscular build. Yeah. Like I have a bit.
I don't think anyone would look at you and be like, "Oh, that guy's fat." Like, yeah, you're not tall, but like you're like a very, I hate to use the word thick, but you're like a broad dude.
Sure. Yeah. So it's like, I can't believe, I mean, I can believe it because I feel horrible, right? I feel, right. I feel really bad. And it makes me understand like where all the sluggishness and the tiredness comes from, is because I have all this fat in my blood.
Right.
So, and the other thing is triglycerides. High triglycerides is not the enemy. The enemy is what they are. They're basically waving flags saying, "Hey, we got a problem." The problem is the plaque. like it gets stuck inside your arteries and it clogs stuff up and it slows stuff down, and that's where you wind up with heart failure and all this other stuff.
Right.
So
you don't want your blood flowing like cottage cheese. That's not good.
cottage cheese blood.
Oy.
So I've recently, like, in the last this has only been like a few days since I've heard all about what's going on, but since then I've made some massively drastic changes in my diet. Not enough to like shock my system, because that's one thing I don't want to have happen. Sure. I don't want my system being shocked. But I am no dairy. I'm staying away from all the dairy stuff because there's a lot of fat in that. Yeah. No breads, none. No pasta, out of that. And I have to cut my animal protein way down. Not out.
Yeah, but
I just have to cut it way down.
Oh, yeah. Man, so no fun. I'm kidding.
No fun.
I'm totally kidding.
But I'm lots of greens. So I'm eating a lot of like salads and stuff. And I love hot peppers. Like, I don't like the hot peppers like you like hot peppers, because you like freaking hot peppers.
To be fair, I mean, I don't know how much I like the actual hot peppers, or I just like the wing sauces that use those hot peppers.
So quick story. So Matt and I, we used to partake in going to a little place called Famous Dave's in Nashville, Tennessee, and there they had wings, they had ribs, steaks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a chain barbecue joint. It's pretty decent for a chain. Yeah, I gotta be honest.
It was great though. Yeah. It was so good. They had fish there too, which we had on occasion. Not as much as the other stuff though. And this is way before your transformation.
Oh, and, this is back when I didn't give a crap about how I ate.
So I can't recall the story exactly, but they had several different sauces on the table inside like one of those little 6-pack cardboard carry things for like.
One called? Devil's
spit, right?
Yeah, because the next day it was called Devil's shit.
So Devil's spit, man, it was really hot.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah, it didn't have did it have habanero in it?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't the hottest thing I've ever had, but it was pretty hot. And like, it was pretty hot. Used to eat it. You know, I would order like boneless wings in Devil's spit, and then I would add more Devil's spit to it.
Yeah. You would order wings with Devil's spit. They would toss them in Devil's spit, and then they come to the table, and you take the squeeze bottle and squeeze some more Devil's spit on there. And one day you did that, and you were eating, and you're like, whew. Wasn't that what you did? You were like, man, these things are hot.
Yeah. And then you said, well, at least you got some celery you can eat there. Covered in Devil's spit, because like there was so much Devil's spit all over the plate, like
it was all over the place. But anyway, so about that peppers. So I'm like, I like
that story had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, but it's funny.
It was funny.
I was reminiscing. Okay, so anyway, so hot peppers. I'm like, that's kind of something I kind of miss, because I haven't really done that much. In a while. You know how you do. You get in a routine, and this is what you have, and you have this for dinner, and it's just. But something I miss. There's a few things I miss. I really, really miss cutting up an avocado and putting it in my salad. I miss that. But I'm allergic to avocados now.
Oh,
so I can't
really?
do that.
Dude, that sucks.
I know. I love cutting up half an avocado, pop in a salad, and then throw like maybe some pickled jalapenos or some pepperoncinis or something in there on top there. Oh, so delicious. But like,
sounds real good.
Yeah, so I'm talking about like taking something like that, and guess what? There's no meat contributed there.
Right.
You know, you're eating. In my case, I'm eating something that's gonna be healthy for me.
Right.
And that's the other thing. Like, there's some buddies of mine that just started the keto diet, which it's. I don't know that much about it.
It's basically it's just another form of a low carb diet, and you're basically replacing your energy source. Instead of using carbs for energy, you're trying to flip your body into ketosis, so it uses fat for energy.
Correct. Right. And they
That's something I'm
kind
going to
of
talk about in the next.
Is it really?
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's really cool and really interesting. But that particular diet, I don't think would lend itself very well for me because it seems like they push a lot of animal protein in that one. Or there are like variations of it that do.
Yeah. My biggest issue with keto is this. Or any like fad diet. Which, like I said, I want to talk more about this. I'm not an expert on any of them, but my personal opinion is every diet like that works at first because A, you're really dedicated, and B, no matter what diet you're doing, whether it's keto or paleo or whatever, the very basics of losing weight is calories in versus calories out. And if you burn more calories than you eat in a day, you're burning stored fat. Okay? That's why you lose weight. So if you're like, every diet works for a month because you're in it whole hog and you're really strict. And so it really is not about what you're eating. Now, I'm not talking about for health. I'm not talking about like,
you're talking about
I'm just
for
talking
weight
about
loss.
just strictly losing weight.
Got it.
Like I can eat one little tiny bag of Doritos and that can be my only thing I eat all day. I'm going to lose weight. I'm not going to be very healthy.
Sure,
but
right,
I'm going to lose weight.
Right.
Okay.
That's a great example.
But like my issue, and like I it is something I want to research more, but my issue with keto is this, is like, yes, the body you can definitely use fat as your energy source instead of carbs. But I don't know why you'd want to, because protein and carbs, I'm going to get this wrong, I think. Protein and carbs are 4 calories per gram. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So like for every gram of a protein or every gram of a carb you eat, that's 4 calories. Fat is 9 calories per gram. So it's more than double. So in the simplest sense, if you eat everyone has to have some fat because it affects your hormones. Right? You don't ever want to just not eat any kind of fat. Like you want to eat good, healthy fats, like avocado or nuts or things like that, you know?
Right.
But you can eat a much bigger volume of food if you're eating carbs and using them as your energy source, because there are less calories per gram than a gram of fat.
I gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can lose weight on keto and you can for sure use fat as an energy source, but the volume of food that you're going to be allowed to eat if you want to see weight loss is going to be like less than if you were to just eat a balanced diet and include carbs as your energy source. I don't want to get too much into this because it's definitely something we'll talk more about. Right. But here's what I learned when I started training with Damon. Because he asked me before I started training with him, he was like, well, because I'd already lost a bunch of weight, but I got to this point to where I was like doing a whole bunch of cardio all the time. And I was like, I didn't weigh that much, but I also didn't look the way I wanted to look. I was really soft. I was really flabby. Like I wanted to put on some muscle and I wanted to look better. I felt great, but I wanted to look better, right?
Right.
Have some more definition, look a little more
aesthetic.
Yeah.
Part of it, right.
Get a little stronger. Like I could run all day, but like I couldn't bench press.
That's unbelievable, man.
I couldn't bench press 150 pounds, like, Right. So after I'd been training with him for a few months, I was like starting to see some changes and I was getting excited, but I was talking to him about nutrition because he's like a trainer, but he's also like a nutritionist and he's also a physical therapist. So like because I have some rotator cuff issues in my left arm, left shoulder. So like he's kind of the whole package, right? So he told me, he's like, dude, here's the thing when it comes to carbs. I hate it. I hate anything that tells you just shouldn't eat carbs. He's like, it's bullshit. But cater your carbs to what you're doing that day. Like if you're going to run and then you're going to come train with me and then you're going to go home and mow your yard and you're going to build a fence in your backyard or whatever, like your body's going to need energy. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to eat more, not like irresponsibly, but like eat good, healthy carbs that your body can use for energy. Because you're going to need it. Like you're burning a lot of energy doing all that.
Right.
But if it's just going to be a day where you're literally going to wake up and like walk your dog and then just sit on the couch and watch Netflix, you probably don't need to eat. Your carb intake does not need to be near as high. You know, and the other thing he taught me is, and various other people that I read, that I follow, that I listen to on podcasts, you should basically eat your weight in grams of protein if you want to build muscle.
Huh.
So like I'm like 225 right now, right? Mm-hmm. I try to get at least 200 grams of protein every day.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot.
It is. And I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't supplement with protein shakes. If I was just trying to do it from just actual like
food,
like meat or like peas or something like that, it would be really tough. But like a protein shake is really calorically efficient because it's pretty much just protein and nothing else. So
yeah, it's like a concentrate.
I can get like 50 grams of protein for like 220 calories.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yep.
So I always have one of those at breakfast. That pretty much my breakfast is like I either have some oatmeal or I have a banana and then I do a double protein shake. And then sometimes, like on days that I lift or something, I'll probably throw in like egg whites too. So then breakfast there is like 80 grams of protein in one meal.
Jeez Louise.
But if you want to start trying to build muscle, you got to have that because that's what your muscles are going to use to get bigger, to repair themselves, you know? And I think it's so funny because I don't, the national recommendation, like health board, whatever, bullcrap, is that you get at least 50 grams of protein a day. I mean, that's like 50 grams of protein a day. I mean, yeah, I guess that's enough to keep you alive, but you're not. It's like I try and get 50 grams of protein in every meal, at least, you know? Like,
wow.
So that's just something I learned. I'm not, if keto works for people, that's fine. I'm not going to hate on it. I don't think I could do it. Like, I don't want to just eat bacon and put butter in my coffee and or like, you know, have some, like cook with some oil and that be my fat in the meal. Like, I don't want to do that. You know, I just try and gauge your carb intake accordingly. I think a lot of it is common sense, but I can also speak from being someone who was 320 plus pounds. Like, you have to get to a point before you understand what like eating with common sense is.
Right. Right.
Because my idea of like eating food was so out of whack. You know?
I think this would be an awesome topic to talk about because there's a lot to talk about that particular thing. And me, I'm just, between you and me, like the next one, I think we should go into it further because I am highly uneducated with it. And I think the majority are. And so I think I'll be able to ask a lot of really good questions because there's a ton of questions I've got that you, I think, can answer.
Well, I will try
to
and
help
answer them to the best of my ability, at least pulled from the experiences that I've had.
Yeah, and I don't think any of my questions I have are going to be like anything crazy. It's just simple things like what are carbs, and how do you calculate, like you already went through some of that, but how do you calculate that and how do you apply that? And then what do you mean by being so out of line with the way you thought eating was to where it is now?
Yeah,
and
sure.
how the meals, and like what do you do as far as meal planning, like for you, and what are you looking to get out of that versus what I have to possibly do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, let's get into that next time.
I think that'd be really cool. Yeah. I'm down for it because I'm really interested in knowing and trying to better myself, obviously. Because I want to be better for people around me. I want to be better for my children and my wife. And, that's what I want. And the only way I can do it is making sure that I'm healthy. Right.
Right.
And you the same.
Yeah.
So it hasn't run quite as long as we usually run.
No.
But it did run longer than I think both of us thought it might. But I liked this one. This was a cool one. This was fun.
All right.
So I left my dog downstairs all by herself this time.
Oh, well that.
Like I didn't bring her up in the room or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm going to walk into down there. I'm hoping she doesn't like have any of my stuff.
I hope she didn't leave you a good share on the carpet.
Thanks for listening to the Good Share podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or just enjoyed the podcast in general, give us 5 stars or thumbs up or whatever it is that you can do through the apparatus that you're using. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. You can also find more content and more about the podcast at www.goodsharepodcast.com.